A letter of intent. The first step. On October 22, 2025, a significant document was signed between Sweden and Ukraine. This was a letter of intent. It outlined a potential agreement for the sale of Swedish-made Saab Gripen E fighter jets to Kyiv. This initial step is not a binding contract. It is a formal declaration of intent to move toward a final deal. It signals a strong political commitment from both nations to explore this major defense acquisition. The document sets the stage for complex negotiations that will follow. It marks the beginning of a process, not the conclusion of one. The world is watching to see if this intent translates into a concrete agreement that could reshape Ukraine's air combat capabilities for years to come. The announcement was centered on large and ambitious numbers. The letter of intent outlines a potential order between 100 and 150 Saab Gripen E fighter jets. If finalized at the top end, Ukraine would become the largest Gripen E operator. That would even surpass Sweden's planned fleet. The scale shows Ukraine's need to replace aging aircraft and rebuild an air force. This isn't a small buy, it's rebuilding an entire air force. Key figures behind it: Volodymyr Zelensky and Ulf Kristersson, shown signing the letter. Both called it a game changer for Ukraine and European security. Zelensky stressed urgent need for advanced air combat capabilities. Kristersson framed it as Sweden's major support step, tied to NATO alignment. Their public backing gives crucial political momentum. The deal represents a strategic shift to a Western fighter platform. That shift requires overhauling, logistics, training, maintenance. One of the most immediate points of divergence is the timeline for delivery. The leaders of Ukraine and Sweden have presented different perspectives on how quickly the Gripen E jets could arrive. He stated that he counts on the first deliveries of Gripens to begin as early as 2026. This timeline would be highly ambitious. It would require an exceptionally fast finalization of the contract, rapid scaling of production, and expedited training programs. Zelensky's perspective is driven by the immediate pressures of the battlefield and the need to get advanced capabilities into the hands of Ukrainian pilots as soon as possible. In contrast, the Swedish government has offered a more cautious and pragmatic outlook. Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson described the project as the start of a long journey that could span 10 to 15 years for full completion. He acknowledged that the first gradual deliveries could practically start within the next 3 years. His overall assessment is much more measured. This longer timeline accounts for the real-world challenges of industrial production, securing financing, and comprehensive training. Ukraine needs jets now. Sweden needs time to build them. The potential cost of this acquisition is immense. Defense analysts have provided preliminary estimates based on recent Gripen EF sales. Per unit cost estimates as low as $138 million. Per unit cost estimates up to $146 million. This figure typically does not include essential additional items, weapons packages, spare parts, ground support equipment, long-term maintenance contracts. An order for 100 aircraft would amount to approximately $14.6 billion. If the order reaches 150 jets, the total could climb to around $21.9 billion. This represents a monumental financial commitment. In a significant sign of commitment, Ukrainian pilots have already begun training on the Gripen platform. President Zelensky confirmed this development, stating that his pilots were already familiarizing themselves with the Swedish planes. This early start to training is a crucial preparatory step. By starting now, they aim to reduce the time between the potential delivery of the first aircraft and their entry into operational service. Section 6. A fighter built for the fight. Gripen E's key features. The Saab Gripen E was not chosen by accident. The aircraft possesses several key features that make it particularly well suited for the specific operating conditions and threats faced by Ukraine. One of its most important attributes is its ability to operate from short and austere airstrips. The Gripen was designed with Sweden's defense doctrine in mind, which involves dispersing aircraft to small temporary bases and even public roadways to avoid being targeted at large known airfields. This capability is directly relevant to Ukraine, where major air bases are under constant threat of Russian missile strikes. The ability to operate from smaller, less predictable locations significantly enhances the survivability of the aircraft. Another critical feature of the Gripen E is its advanced electronic warfare, EW suite. The modern battlefield is saturated with electronic threats, including sophisticated radar systems and jamming equipment. The Gripen E is equipped with a highly integrated and powerful EW system designed to detect, identify, and counter these threats. This allows the pilot to maintain situational awareness and protect the aircraft from enemy radar-guided missiles. Its advanced radar and sensor fusion capabilities allow it to detect and track multiple targets, including cruise missiles and drones, at long ranges. Armed with modern long-range air-to-air missiles, a fleet of Gripens could help create a more resilient defensive shield over Ukrainian cities and critical infrastructure. The aircraft was designed for ease of maintenance, with a small team able to refuel and rearm it quickly between missions. This combination of dispersed operations capability, advanced electronic warfare, missile defense utility, and logistical efficiency makes the Gripen E a strong theoretical match for Ukraine's needs. Section 7. The production hurdle. Can Sweden build them fast enough? The single greatest practical challenge to this deal is industrial production capacity. Section 8. Finding the funds. The challenge of financing the deal. The question of how to pay for a deal worth up to $21.9 billion is a central and unresolved issue. Ukraine, with its economy heavily impacted by the war, does not have the domestic resources to fund an acquisition of this magnitude. Therefore, the realization of this deal depends entirely on securing a robust and creative financing package from international partners. One option gaining traction is using profits from frozen Russian sovereign assets held primarily in Europe. However, this path is fraught with legal complexities and concerns about financial system precedent. A decision would require broad consensus among G7 and European Union members. Other mechanisms include grants, loans, pooled international funds, and export credit guarantees. The final solution will likely be a hybrid approach. Section 9. The letter of intent for 150 Gripen E jets is a major development, but it leaves many critical questions unanswered. The first and most fundamental question is whether a final binding contract will ever be signed. Even with quick agreement, building and delivering significant numbers will take years. Delays could come from production, supply chain issues, or funding shortfalls. The world will be watching to see if this bold plan can be turned into a reality that truly changes the game for Ukraine and the security of Europe.